Hi everyone, welcome to today's edition of our Enterprise Database Migration Labs. For today, we are going to explore creating databases in Compute Engine. Computer databases typically store aggregations of data records or files that contain information such as maybe sales information, customer data, finance, and product information. That's an overview of what database is. And for today, we are going to explore creating some databases in Google Compute Engine. Let's get started. As usual, we start our lab. After starting our lab, we open in an incognito window. Here we are. So click on next. Then we paste our password. It's launching our project page. So here we are on our project page. This is an overview of everything. So the first thing we want to do is the setup. We've done the setup. Then for task 1, we have to create a MySQL database on Linux. So to create a MySQL database on Linux, you'd follow the instruction as shown here. So let's get started. From navigation menu, Compute Engine, and VM instance. So here we are on the VM instance homepage. You click create virtual machine or create an instance. So here we are. So I have to copy the name of our instance, which is MySQL DB. And I come here and paste the name. So after pasting the name, I'll leave the region as shown. Then I also have to change the bootstricks. So let's see the bootstricks they are supposed to use here. So because we want to deploy this database on Linux, so we have to use an Ubuntu operating system. So we are using an Ubuntu Pro and Ubuntu 18.04 LTS Pro server. So you have to change this to Ubuntu Pro. Then choose the version 18.04. Here we are. Then we click select. So after this, you leave the other values as their defaults. Then you click create. So here we are. Our MySQL DB is getting created. So it's just going to allow a while for it to get created. I'll fast forward it and see at the end. Virtual machine instance has been created. So then we want to update the packages and install MySQL using the apt package manager. So we copy this command. After copying this command from the SSH manual here, so it's transferring the SSH key and it's establishing the required connection. Just going to wait for this to get completed. So here we are. So we paste the sudo apt update and you can see that it's running. So it's updating the OS and it's going to also install MySQL Server. Installing it. Still installing. Yes, so our SQL server has been installed. And the next thing we want to do is, so this it did not ask me for a password here, but in case if it asks for a password, you can just input the password. So to enable me secure my database, I have to run this code and input a password. So with this sudo MySQL secure installation. So would you like to set up Just going to say no. So when it asks for my password, I'll put the password here. I'll enter the password. So after doing that, I'm just going to say no for the other questions here, as recommended by the lab. So depending when you're working on your own database, you can choose yes if you need some of the questions or if you need some of the functionality that is requesting. So the next step is to log into the database with sudo MySQL. So we are logging into the root folder of the database with this. Paste this here. So it's asking for the password I used. I'm just going to put it here now. So after doing that, I want to show the database that are here. So to show the database, you use this command, which is the show database. So when I paste show database here, these are the database. This is sort of an example database. This information schema, MySQL, my performance schema, and SYS. They are just examples database that comes with the MySQL on the Ubuntu OS. So the next thing we want to do is we want to create our own database, and we are going to name it PetDB. So this is PetsDB, and let's see. So you can see it has created. So let's confirm if we can actually see the database with the show database command. And you can see now we have 5 rows: the information schema, MySQL, performance schema, PetDB, and sys. So the next thing we want to do is we want to create a table in our database. So if you are familiar with SQL, it's create table pets. So the table is going to have the ID, and we are using an ID of auto increment primary key. So the ID is serving as a primary key here. So as new data get uploaded, it's going to increase from 1 to 3 till as much as possible. And we have the name here. So this name I'm using a virtual 255, sort of a string, and the breed also sort of a string. So I copy this command and paste it here. Click on enter. So it's saying no database selected. So first thing, before I have to first select database I want it to create from. So to select a database, you use the command, the use PetDB. So when you want to use PetDB, you've entered into the database you want. Then I can now paste the previous code, which is this. And you can see now we have 0 role affected, and it has created the schema in the database. So the next thing we want to do is we want to populate values into this particular. So this is just a table. So let's populate values into that table. So to populate value, you use this command, insert into. So this is the name of the table, pets. This is the name of the table name that we have, the rows of the table. This is the name of the columns of the table, the name and breed. So I'm telling him to input the value no as a name and the value snodo as a breed. So just going to put it here and click on enter. So let's see if these rows are actually affected. So to see that, we'll select all from the pets. This is just a typical SQL command. Select all from the table name, which is pets. So I'm just going to paste this. And you can see we have the ID, which is auto incrementing. We have the name, we have the breed. So we can just do a test and input another values, and let's see how it get affected. So I'll just copy this thing and change the values again. I'm just going to add some S here and maybe some R here, and let's see how it takes care of that. So you can see another role has been added. So let's select all from the database once again. Just select all from this table name, and you can see that now we have the first and the second one, which is good. So you can keep adding more rows as you like. The next thing we want to do is exit out of our database. So we've created the database on Compute Engine, and now we can exit from the SSH window of our virtual machine. So just as simple as this. And that's all for creating a database with a Compute Engine on a Linux operating system. And here we use Ubuntu for the Linux operating system. So let's check if we've completed our task. Let's see. Yeah, our task is completed, which is fine. So the next task is to create the SQL Server database on Windows. So now I want to create an SQL Server on Windows. So the same thing also would create a new instance for this. After creating a new instance, then we'll follow the prompts. So going here, we create our instance. We are going to name this, follow the instruction here. We are going to name this SQL Server DB. Yeah, which is fine. Then for machine type, we use an E2 standard 4. Okay, so here we have an E2 standard 4 here. Then the next thing we also want to change is we want to change the boot disk, and we select an SQL Server on Windows Server as the version, and we select the SQL 2019 web on Windows Server 2019 data center. So to do that, here on our boot disk, sorry, I'm past it. Click on change. So after clicking on change, selecting an SQL Server here. SQL Server on Windows Server. Then let's wait for the version to get loaded. Yes. So we are selecting the 2019 version. Just going to click on show more. And here we are. We have our 2019 web on Windows Server 2019 data center. So click on that. After clicking on that, click on select. So after that, leave the other values as default. Then create your database. Create your virtual machine instance rather. And you can see our virtual machine instance is getting created. It's still loading. You can check the progress here. So you can see create virtual machine SQL Server and its boot disk. So let's wait for it. I'm going to see you at the end. So our virtual machine instance has been created. So as recommended by the lab, we are supposed to allow a few minutes after it has been created so that it can configure the required settings, and this is it here. So just allow a few minutes, a couple of minutes, and before you go on with the next step. So let's just go on. So then we'll set a Windows password. So this is the username, as default. Click on set. So after that, it's going to generate a password for us. Let's see. So it has generated a password for us. So make sure you keep this password as safe as possible. You can use a keychain or something when you are doing yours. So I'll copy this password here, and I'm just going to save it here. So that because I just need it for the duration of this lab. Okay, that's fine. So the next thing I want to do is, if you are using a Windows, I have to have the RDP client to log in onto the Windows machine. So if you are using a Windows, you would click the drop down arrow in the connect column and just select the download audio file. So let's say you are using a window, normally just from here, just click download the RDP file. But currently I'm not using a window. I'm not using a Windows system, so I have to download the Microsoft Remote Desktop client from Apple Store, which I have on my device. So since I have that on my device, I'm just going to stop. So click on this, and here we are. So for that, since I have it on my device, the next thing I have to do is to download the RDP file. Then I'll download it. So as I'm downloading, you can see it's showing here. So I'm just going to open it from my down. It's initiating the necessary connection. So it's requesting for the password, which is the password that we copied the other time. So make sure you have it. I'm just going to copy it from here. Here we are. Just going to come here, paste the password. So you can say you want to show the password and see that's the correct thing. Then click on continue. Yeah, so you're connecting to the RDP host. The certificate couldn't be verified back to the root certificate. Your connection may not be secure, and that's because we choose no for the other prompts command, which is fine. Click on continue. So let's see. Yes, you can see it's setting up our Windows on my Mac. Just going to wait it to load finish. Yeah, here we have, which is fine. So, surprising height. Yeah, this is just a Microsoft Remote Desktop on a MacBook. Yes, and it has launched the server management here, and let's continue. So the next thing we want to do is on the startup menu, you just search for SSMS. Then, so from here, the startup menu here, search for SSMS. Then, so return this. So when it's return this, make sure you open this as an administrator. So asking it to run this as an administrator. Click on yes. So let's wait for it to get launched. You can see it's going to launch it as expected. It's taking a while, but it's still going to get launched as expected. Okay. From here, it's opening, and here you can see this is the home page. So let's follow the next instruction. So now we have to connect into it. So to connect, just click on connect from here. So this is the name that we are using. So we are using a Windows authentication for now. Then click on connect. And here we are. So the next thing we want to do is from the management window, we want to select the properties. So from here, just select the properties. After selecting the properties, here we are, go to the security. So after you go into the security, for server authentication, you use this, which is this that we have here. Then we click on OK. Yeah, click on OK again. So we have to restart this for this to get affected. So from here, then click on comment. I think that's the configuration we're supposed to do. So let's click on restart. It's going to restart our server for us. Yes. So it's as usual, it's going to stop this and restart a new one for us. So let's wait a bit. As restarted, let's continue. So the next thing we want to do is we want to use a new login function for our MySQL server here. So to do that, click on this. So the first thing you want to do is click on security, just right click on it so that it can show. After that, click on the login, click on the plus sign. So when you're on the login, you can do a long press here. Then we have the new login. So for this one, we are going to use a SQL Server authentication, and let's use a login name. Just going to use my name, and for this, I just use a password. Do the same thing here also. Confirm the password. Then after doing that, so under this enforce, we're going to clear this out because we don't want to enforce any password rule. So let's go to server roles. And we'll select the sysadmin. So if you select sysadmin, on the user mapping, we have to click on all this database that we want to get created. And so we've done the server role, we've done this, we've done the user mapping also, then we click on OK. So, OK. Okay, so our password does not match, so I'm just going to do that again. That's probably a mistake on my end. And I'll change the other one too. So after doing that, let's confirm that other details are, yeah, we have the sysadmin here. We have our user mapping, so we did not do anything in the secureable and status. So click on OK. And now our it maps as expected, and we've created a new login user. So the next thing we want to do from the instruction is to connect to the database engine. So from here, click on connect to the database engine here. So in this case now, we are not using a Windows authentication again. We are using an SQL Server authentication because that's what we specified. So our login is my name. Then I'm just going to use the password that I selected. So after that, click on connect. Let's see. So we are connected and we are now on the screen back. So the next thing we want to do is to create a new query so that we can create our new database here. So the first thing we want to do is in this tab, this new query. When you click on new query, it's going to create a query, and you can see this is stuff right here. So the next thing we also want to do is we'll create the table. So create the table here from the master. So when you press create table, then you execute it, and you can see the commands completed successfully. So the next thing we want to do is we want to move into this database that we've created. So to move into from here, you'd see the pets DB from here now. We just created it. If you look for just a test version, let's create a new one, and you see that the name would also get updated here. So you can just see the name that are here. But let me just create a new test one, and I'll call it my DB or my DBs. So when I execute this command, let's see, command completed successfully, and from here we can see that we can now have my DBs from here. But we are not concerned with this. Let's go back to our pets DB. So from our pets DB, we switch into our pets DB, and the next command is to create a table. So if you followed before, just creating a table with the ID of 1, and we are using this ID as the primary key. So the name is also a string and the breed is a string. Copy this command here, then come back here, copy all this, just going to remove all this, then paste the new one, which you are telling him to use pet.db and create a table name of pets, and to also put this as the name of the column here. The next thing we want to do is execute this. So after executing, you can see we are here. So just going to delete this code again, and the next thing we want to do is we want to add a record. So let's add a record, just like the record we used before. I'm going to use this, so paste it here, and let me just add another value so that you can see that we have two values. Just going to add another values below it. Execute this. Okay, yeah, so this is how it's supposed to be. So you use a comma between each values, between each successive value. So when you use the values, you use a comma in between them. So the next thing we want to do is let's show our database and confirm if we have 2 rows in our database. So with the select all from the database, let's paste it here once again, then click on execute, and now you can see we have the first ID null, and we have the second one, which is the layer with the multiple R and the one with the multiple S. But these are not from the lab. I just added this so that you can't see. Yes, so the next thing, we are done with this. So let's close our HackDB collection. So to close the HackDB collection, you can just close from here. But before I close this, let me confirm if we are through with everything we have to do on the server, the SQL Server database on Windows. So I'm going to confirm, yeah, and the task is complete. So I can now carefully close this. So I'm just going to close from here. Yeah, I want to close, so you can say you want to save it and save. It's going to save, but you probably now have access to it since it's just a remote connection. So I'm just going to close this. Yeah. And so for task 3, we have to automate server creation using the Google Cloud SDK. So how can we automate creation of database servers using the Google Cloud SDK? So the first thing we are going to do is spin up an instance once again, and this time we name it a DB server. So here we are on our complete engine. We create an instance. After creating an instance, we replace the name with DB server. Then, following the next instruction, we use a DBN LNU image, so that's selected before. So the next thing we want to do is we have to change the boot disk. Just going to confirm here. So yeah, we are not changing the boot disk. So the next thing we want to do is we want to add this advanced option in our starter script. So copy this and yeah, just leave this as default. Just select it. So from here, from this advanced option, click on this drop down menu. So go to management, then after management we have this starter script. So paste the starter script here, and then any other thing from the instruction. So after we've pasted the starter scripts, we have everything here. So the next thing we want to do is, I do not want to run this thing from the console. I want to use the command line. So that's why I want to use a Cloud SDK command line. So to get that, I just have to I have to click on this equivalence code. So instead of me to select create, I'm going to use equivalence code. Then this is the code. These are the codes that you can just use to create the same configuration that we've already selected here using this code. So I'm going to copy this code. And I'm going to use it to create at another step. So after copying this code, I can now cancel out of this. I'm not going to create this here again. I'm just going to cancel it out and create it in the next step. So the next thing we want to do is we want to edit the code before we create. So I want to remove this provisioning model, the standard. And when you are doing yours, make sure it is only this provisioning standard that you remove and not any other thing. So to do that, I'm going to use my VS Code here. So I'm just going to click on VS Code. It's good to use an editor. So new file. That's the text file works. So I'm going to paste the code that I selected here. And after pasting the code, the part that we want to change is just this provisioning model. So I'm just going to do a find and replace of this here. So from here, Ctrl F, and I paste it here, and this is just what we need to remove. So I'm going to remove this and make sure you are removing this only. Yeah. So after removing, you also have to copy the full code. Just going to do a Ctrl A, then Ctrl C. So after doing that, now we can go back to our Cloud Shell and run this code on our Cloud Shell. So to do that, here we are on our Cloud Shell. So this is the Activate Cloud Shell button. Click on that to activate our Cloud Shell. So it's provisioning our Cloud Shell machine, and after that we can now connect to our Cloud Shell instance. So after doing that, paste the code here. So make sure that you are not doing any error when running this, and click enter. So I'm going to authorize this. So it may take a while for it to get started, but I'll see you at the end. And we can see it's quite fast. So this is the US Central one, this is the internal IP address, this is the external IP address, and it has the status of running, which is what we want. So you can wait a little bit more for the startup script to run in the background. So because we set a startup script there, so you can wait a little bit for those startup script to get run after the instance is created. So maybe I'll just do that and wait a bit. I'll see you at the end. So you may not necessarily wait for 3 to 5 minutes, but yeah, just wait for a while. So after that, copy this command and paste it here. Click on enter. So for this, select yes. So I don't want to use a passphrase, so I'm just going to click on enter. Click on enter once again. And here we are. So the next step now is to see whether our database server is running or not. So let's confirm if our database server is running with this. Paste it here. Click on enter. Yes. And you can see that our database server is running, and it's a MariaDB server, so which is what we expected. And let's confirm if we are through with this part also. Yeah, so we are also through with this part, and this is probably the end of our lab. So to just leave this point, click on Q, and you can exit this part to something like this. So close the connection. So I want to check some other things coming. So let me go back to that connection and see if I can access the connection once again. Okay, yeah, so I'm back into the connection. I want to test out some things and see if I can do some things here. So I'll start with show, just copy the command from here. So just like what we did in the first one, where we first show database. But let me start from this sudo. So our password is nothing. Yeah, so the next thing we want to do is show database, and you can use show database. After showing database, you can see the example database we have here, the information schema, MySQL, performance schema. So let's create a new database also. Let's create another PetDB here. Paste it here. Let me just change the name. Let me add an S. Let's see. Yeah, so we've created another database. So now let's show the database also. So here we are, and you can see that now we have the PetDBs that we created. So let's add some rows like we did the other time. So let's first select into PetDB with use PetDBs. So no, so I changed the name, so let me just use the name that I also changed. I'm going to add this, which is what I used here. Click on enter here. The database is changed. So the next thing we want to do now is create a table. So let's create a table. I've done that twice, so let me cancel it. Let me just paste the code one more time. And like we said, let's add another column. Let's add another row. Let's add 2 rows together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a comma here. Then let's add a comma here. Then going to put the name. Let me use maps, then comma, the next value, let me use dogs. So I'm expecting it to create a name of maps, a breed of Snuggle, and a breed of dogs. So just click on enter. Yeah, and you can see 2 rows affected here. So the next thing we want to do is select all from here. So let me do it once again and run it now. And you can see we now have our name, we have our Snuggle, we have the maps and the dog. So which is interesting. So the next thing is we can just exit from this now. Yeah, and exit from this server also. So we've closed the connection of our database that we created, which is fine. So very interesting, and you can see that we created the MySQL database on Linux, we created the SQL Server database on Windows, and we also automated the server creation using the Google Cloud SDK. And you can just see that we could just spin up a database easily after following the required information to also show what we did in the first 2 tasks on the 3rd task. So that was an added code by me. So that's all for this lab. Thanks for staying true, and I hope this lab helps you to start creating databases on Compute Engine. So Google Cloud also offers a managed database solution whereby you don't need to do all these configurations that I'm doing, and you could just spin up your database in seconds, and it will also help you manage a whole lot of the required management and configuration on the database, and you don't have to be the one updating, installing by yourself. So you can check out Cloud SQL or Cloud Spanner, which is Google Cloud Managed Database Solution. But if you just want to deploy your own or launch your own database, here is the lab to use to create your database on Compute Engine. So thanks for staying true, and just like I've said, we've created both Linux and Windows Server, and we also use the CLI to automate the creation of the server. So this is quite fundamental. You can also do more advanced stuff with your database, but this is the basics of creating database in Compute Engine. Depending on the configuration you want on your database, you can also learn more and explore more functions to create and to configure your database. So thanks for staying true. I hope you really enjoyed this lab. If you do, make sure you like this lab, share to your loved ones, comment your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know what you enjoy most about this lab, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Bye for now.